This is CNN Breaking News.
All right, we are interrupting this news conference of the activists in Minneapolis to let you know that a Minneapolis Police Department officer, Derek Chauvin, the one that you saw in the video right there with his knee on the neck of George Floyd, has been taken into custody. This is according to the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. I want to go right to the ground there in Minneapolis, where our Omar Jimenez has been covering this day in, day out for us. What can you tell us, Omar? I mean, we just heard from activists as they... Actually, I want to bring in Laura Coates, our legal analyst, to talk about this. This isn't enough for activists, Laura. They made that clear. They feel that all four of these police officers should be held responsible. But what do you think about what this means, that he has been taken into custody here on Friday after this death occurred on Monday?
Well, this is actually one of many steps that needs to take place. Remember, we heard the press conference yesterday that they were looking at dotting all their I's, crossing all their T's, examining the full body of evidence to determine whether they had anything substantial to have probable cause. Compared to beyond a reasonable doubt after a conviction, probable cause standard is quite of a low bar. It means that it probably happened and we know who caused this to actually happen. We have a videotape that shows us that. We have more than 7 minutes of footage to show what his actions were. And so we talk about a call for justice. It's a flow chart in many ways. It's about, number one, the firing. Number two, it's about the arrest. Number three will be what charges will be presented here. And that's going to be the very big indication here. That'll be the true barometer of how the Hennepin County Attorney's Office truly views the actions of this particular police officer and his three remaining colleagues. Why? Because it's going to be about whether the person was acting intentionally, in a premeditated fashion, whether it was a disregard for human life, whether it was unintentional or an involuntary killing. Whatever charge they come up with to say, to substantiate the arrest, will be very telling, because it will alert us to the state of mind of the Hennepin County attorneys, prosecutors, of how they intend to litigate this case. Remember, most people, Brianna, have the impression when it comes to first-degree murder, they think of the quintessential example of hiring a hitman, that they premeditated from some lengthy period of time. But in reality, you can form the intent to kill in a much shorter amount of time. In fact, it doesn't require a lengthy duration at all. And so we know here, unlike most of the officer-involved police brutality cases involving unarmed black men and brown women as well in this country, that normally it's about giving the benefit of the doubt to an officer because of their split-second decisions that they are required to make. That there is an idea they could not react or withdraw from a conflict in time, to have the 20/20 hindsight that we all have looking at this. Well, the length of that video, the 9 minutes plus, talking about the amount of time he had to contemplate, to withdraw, and knowing that community members were standing shouting, even echoing the sentiment of Mr. George Floyd, who was on the ground, no longer resisting arrest, if he had ever been resisting arrest. And now you have this decision of what the Hennepin County prosecutor will decide to lead with. Now, whatever they decide to do right now in terms of charges, Brianna, it's not the end of the calculus. As the investigation continues, you could certainly continue an investigation. You could elevate the charges. You could also have a lesser charge or a lower charge included. But this will be the first indication of the mindset of the prosecution with respect to these officers. And one more point. It will also tell us about the liability, potentially, of the three other officers who have also been fired. Because if somebody is involved in felonious behavior, if somebody is involved in an underlying crime, those who act in concert with or participate or fail to act in a way that shows their duty to protect and serve, they could have a form of accomplice liability. So this is going to tell us a great deal. But right now, we appear to be in step 2 of the call for justice. First the firing, now the arrest. The charge is important.